why the Anelu Lafaele portal decision, why him leaving the program really hurts, and how the staff needs to get a little bit better going forward, in my opinion.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Badger fam? Welcome to Locked On Badgers. I'm your host, Ryan Harris, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, with you every single day. Really do appreciate everybody that supports the channel. Whether you listen to it once in a while, whether you listen to it all the time, whether you're with us on the lives, whether you're in the Discord, whether you're listening in the car with your fam, whether you're cutting grass listening to it, thank you. From the bottom of my heart. I'm just a Badger fan that grew up watching the Badgers. To be able to talk about it with the community is incredible, and appreciate you guys, is what I'll say. I really do. Today's episode brought to you by the College Football Playoffs are here. And if you don't want to miss a moment of the action, the College Football Playoffs presented by Allstate begins with 4 first-round games, December 20th and 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. You're not going to want to miss that. Chris Hart says, is this a safe space? I think so. Listen, we're going to talk portal today. We're going to talk Anelu Lafaele leaving, why that bums me out, but also a couple new additions, players that I think can fill a role. We're definitely going to talk about those guys and get your comments as well. I want to start with Anelu Lafaele. Anelu Lafaele left for the portal, 4-star, 3 or 4-star, 4-star composite recruit in last year's class, edge guy coming from Hawaii. This one frustrates me a little bit. And it frustrates me because let's acknowledge some truths here. The truth is it's unrealized potential. Like, we're not replacing production. The truth is we don't see every practice. Those are real truths. The truth is there's still guys in that room. The defense is shifting schematically. They're going to get bigger. Luke Fickell has talked about that. The staff has talked about that. We're seeing that. Like, sometimes don't trust words, trust actions. We're seeing the staff in action recruit bigger guys on the portal, bigger guys on the defensive line. I think they're going to play a bit of a 4-2-5 or like a 3-3-5 over, which is again kind of putting that fourth guy to the line of scrimmage, getting a little bigger at the line of scrimmage. So there's a little bit more of a body crunch. I get that. Schematically, maybe Lafaele is getting pushed out a little bit. Production-wise, we didn't get a lot last year. Here's my frustration, and here's where I hope. And I'm not. Listen, I don't know everything. I'm not going to sit here and say I know everything. But this was one of the worst teams in the country at rushing the passer last year. One of the absolute worst teams. 17th in the Big Ten. There's only 18 teams in the Big Ten. Last in the Big Ten in tackles for loss. And you have a 4-star guy in Anelu Lafaele who couldn't get on the field. And that, I'm telling you right now, that's part of the reason he transferred. It just is. This is a player who came from Hawaii to Wisconsin. He really wanted to be here. That Hawaii connection is real. He was following in Nick Herbig's footsteps. And he's got some Herbig in his game. I saw him in practice in Platteville. I've also seen some other clip. Like, he could have given you something in the pass rush last year. I firmly believe that. And where I hope the staff grows a little bit. And listen, this is just my opinion. I want to be super clear on that. The staff, they know there's people on that staff who know way more about football than I ever will. I'm not coming here with hubris. I'm trying to come here with humility. I am a bit frustrated with this one. This is the first portal move that we've lost where I have felt a little frustration. I have felt like maybe the staff could have handled this one a little bit better. Again, just feel free to disagree with me. Feel free to whatever. This is always, we always fan how we want to fan on the show, and all perspectives are welcome. But if you got young guys that you think can help, you got to play them in today's era of college football. You have to. You have to. This team was last in the Big Ten in tackles for loss last year. Dead last. Dead last. They were 17th in sacks. And to not be able to get a guy like Anelu Lafaele on the field to get some pass rushing reps, to me, felt like mismanagement. It felt like that way with Christian Allegro as well. Right? We talked about linebackers all year. This, by the way, this isn't like a new Johnny-come-lately take. I talked about this all year. I was like, you got to get Lafaele some reps. Like, he can help give you some burst. And if he doesn't, what did you lose? Because you're not getting anything from those edges anyway. This pass rush is abysmal. It was abysmal all year. They brought in 5 linebackers to fix it, and they didn't fix it. And you have a guy like Lafaele on the bench, a 4-star guy who came from Hawaii to like continue that Hawaiian pipeline. He's leaving because he didn't play. Now, listen, there's an element to this where you could certainly say, suck it up and work and compete and stay. Sure, absolutely. But there's also an element of play some of the younger guys if you feel like they can give you something. And that's frustrating to me a little bit. And in the entire linebacker side, like I thought Thomas Heiberger should have got some reps as well. I thought Christian Allegro should have played earlier. Like, it felt like that entire room was mismanaged a little bit. And I'm trying to be fair here. Because again, I don't watch practice. I did get some practice clips, but like, I don't watch practice. I'm not a football coach. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I've never been the smartest guy in the room in my life. But when I watch the game and I see Allegro destroying people, like, he should play more. When I watch some of the practice clips, and I got some practice clips of Lafaele playing against the one, like, I'm like, he can give you more than what you're getting on pass rush situations. And if he doesn't, you're not losing anything. So it frustrates me. I think Lafaele is a loss. Lafaele is the first guy that we've lost in the portal where I feel frustrated by it. And I will also point this out. That's going to happen to every team in this era of college football. We are not immune to that. We will never be immune to that. Go look at USC. USC is imploding. They've lost like 4, 5, 6, 7 guys that would, for us, would make you clutch your pearls. And I also like the guys in this room. Like, this is not the end of the world. This is not Lawrence Taylor or Bruce Smith leaving. Badger football will move on. I like Nicholas Clayton coming into the room. Thomas Heiberger's in that room. You have Sebastian Cheeks, who I thought showed a lot of flashes last year. So, like, you're fine. But going forward, I really hope this staff maybe does a little bit better job of, listen, if the young guy's ready and he can give you something that the older guys aren't, you got to get him on the field quicker. You got to be quicker to make that adjustment. You got to be quicker to, quite frankly, play some of that young talent that we've talked about. Because here's the end result. Like, we love Mason Posa coming in. I love him. Like, Posa's been on the show. I love Mason Posa. That dude's a wrecking ball. Absolute stud. I love Nicholas Clayton coming in. Well, if they're good enough to play, you better play them. Because if you don't, this might be the end result. And I'm not painting with a doom brush here. This one just frustrates me. And I feel like if they had given some more reps there potentially, and certainly people are going to point out, well, maybe he didn't deserve the reps. Maybe I think he would have given you more there. I honestly think he would have given you more there. And it frustrates me that he didn't get the opportunity. And let's just be honest, 4-star edges don't grow on trees at Wisconsin. You don't get a ton of guys every cycle like an Anelu Lafaele. Now, I say that, and you're bringing in Nicholas Clayton this cycle. So maybe you do. Maybe you do. This is not like the world is ending, anything like that. I do think this is a loss. It's a potential loss because you're not losing production. Completely fair. But I do think you're losing potential. I think you're losing a kid who has quite a bit of upside. And I would have liked, I would have liked to have seen that opportunity last year. And if you had, I'm not sure if he's leaving this year. That's what I'll say there. All right, let's get some comments here. Oh man, this one frustrated me. I'm not gonna lie. But I will say this. That out of the way, I still really do like what they've done in the portal this offseason. I've talked about it. I was higher on Billy Edwards. I think a lot of people, I like that move. I like Grimes coming in. I like the defensive lineman they picked up. We're going to talk about a couple new pieces they picked up. So I'm like overall optimistic. You're just catching me on a bad day. Let's say that. And I'll also point this out. We all have biases. Every single one of us, we have a bias. And if you don't think you do, that's probably your bias. And part of my bias is I've probably talked to him. I've had him on the show. Like, I've talked to his pops a little bit. Like, I like him. I like his family. Like, there's probably a bit of a bias there. And I would be dishonest if I didn't acknowledge that. Okay, we're going to take a quick second there, take a break for our show, and then come back, talk about 2 more guys that have injured the Wisconsin. Wisconsin has reloaded a little bit at receiver and at linebacker. We're going to talk about those guys, what I like about them. Also, who are my 3 biggest portal losses this cycle? I want you guys in the comment too. Who are the 3 biggest guys that you're frustrated about losing this year? We're going to do that next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick second for our friends of the show. Also, a quick second, as always, to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. Today's friends of the show brought to you by, listen, it is that time of the year. College football playoffs are coming. And if you want, it's back. College football playoffs is back. If you want to check it out, it's a newly expanded 12-team format. It's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into our first match of the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss the moment of the action. Watch the college football playoffs presented by Allstate, live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. Okay, let's come back. Let's get some comments. Because am I over? Like, what are your guys' thoughts on losing Anelu Lafaele? Am I overreacting? Are you guys frustrated by it? Is it just par for the course? Is just this the new norm? Jesse Wilder says, would love to see Anelu and Heiberger on the field together. Could have been a deadly combo. Here's the funny thing. So, like, I knew Anelu was waffling a little bit. Like, I don't want to get into details, but I knew there was a possibility he might leave. And then I thought he was gone. And then I had heard he was coming back, and Wisconsin released that graphic. If you remember that graphic, they released one of Heiberger and Lafaele. And it was about that time I got word that, oh, he's coming back. I think he's coming back. I think it's good. And I was like, yes. And then Wisconsin released that graphic, and it felt like next year they were going to kind of unleash the two of them, right? And then something changed. So, yeah, I agree with you, Jesse. I think it could have been a really good combo, and especially on passing downs, right? Maybe Lafaele wasn't ready to be an every down guy next year. He probably wasn't, to be honest. But on passing downs, if you could put him on one edge, maybe kick a Reiger to the inside and a Dylan Johnson, and then you put a Heiberger on the other side, that would have been a lot of fun. It's unfortunate, man. Recruiting is more difficult to get excited about. Matt Van Grisham says, frustrated by it. John Luke says he's rooting for SMU. Let's go. Steve Kneebone says, if he shows he can play, you better play. Posa, or he will be gone. Yeah, it's tough. I'll say this too. I want to be fair to coaches. A lot of coaches now are in a tough spot. I talked to other Locked On hosts that are covering their teams. This is a really hard spot for coaches with the way college football is currently structured, because there's a lot of players that they feel like they have to play a little bit, give reps to, otherwise they might lose them. But then you have older guys that maybe should be playing more. It gets into a really difficult spot for coaches. And a lot of times there's not a perfect answer, because if you play the veteran guy, fans are going to say, great, that's the guy that earned it. But then when the younger guy leaves, fans are going to say, well, why didn't you play him? And the coach will be like, yeah, there is a bit of an impossible situation here. I don't necessarily think that was last year's situation with the Badgers, though, because you weren't getting very good production from that group of starters. So I don't think you had a lot to lose by switching into a Lafaele or a Heiberger, or even a Sebastian Cheeks earlier. Like, how good did Sebastian Cheeks look in flashes when he got shifted over to the outside linebacker spot, the edge spot, and got reps? It just feels like there were things they could have done earlier, and there was a little bit of stubbornness there. But again, maybe that's just me. That could be completely me. Let's keep going here. A couple more questions. Chris Hartz, do we think they picked Heiberger over Anelu based on portal ads? Listen, they love Heiberger. I can tell you that, and that's not a secret. I think that's been put out there by a couple different places. They thought Thomas Heiberger could play early last year as a true freshman. They love the frame. They love the size. I do think he was ahead of Lafaele on the depth chart. Like that, I don't think that's a huge shock if I put that out there. I do think you could have kept both, because I think they could play in a tandem, especially on pass rushing situations. But yeah, this is true. Like they love Heiberger. They like Cheeks, Clayton coming in. That room is getting a little crowded. I think that's a very fair point to make. All right, who are your three biggest portal losses? The three guys this cycle that have frustrated you the most? To me, I think there's two obvious ones. And then there's one that's just kind of like, for me. And I'm like, I would have liked that guy to stay. Let me know in the comments who your three are. The two obvious ones to me, right? It's no surprise, Anelu Lafaele. We just talked about him. It's Will Pauling to me, because as much as Will Pauling at times struggled last year, as much as at times he had drops, he also has like 98 toughness, like 96 route running. You can tell I've just been playing EA Sports lately. He's a really good route runner. He's always getting separation. He's getting open. He's tough as hell. And 2 years ago, we were talking about him as maybe the best slot receiver in the Big Ten. So even if last year was a C, his first year was an A. He was a B-type player over the last 2 years. Absolutely would have liked to have him back for the experience, the route running, the toughness. And the other one's Braden Moore. This is a guy who, for like a couple years, I've been thinking, okay, when Wohler leaves, when Zachman leaves, I feel like Moore is going to slot into that starting secondary somewhere. I like the athleticism. I like the tools. A good tackler, good ball skills, really good pickup. And then he just upped and left when there's playing time everywhere. And I was like, whoa, that's unexpected. That's unexpected. And it makes me kind of wonder, obviously, we haven't even talked about, but Badger safety coach Alex Grinch has moved on. He's going to be a defensive coordinator. I wonder if there's some coaching stuff in the secondary with Paul Haynes and Grinch where maybe the players weren't vibing with it. When we lost a couple DBs, at first I was like, okay, when you start losing so many, you really got to look at that coaching staff. And I wonder if we had a different, instead of doing this 1 year weird hire with Grinch, I wonder if Luke Fickell had made maybe a better long-term hire there, if you still have a Moore. Maybe if you still have a Snowden. I don't know. But Moore feels like a loss to me too. Those to me are my three biggest. I'm going to look in the comments here. Snowden is the third for Grogan. That makes sense. Snowden's an upside guy. Chris Hartz goes Moore. Oh, JTJ. That's a good one. Yeah. You talk about needing like a 5-tech on this defense. I think this defensive line, we have filled out in like the 3-techs, which again is that guy who's going to kind of line up on the outside of the guard. But a 5-tech is that 6'5", 6'6" defensive lineman. And then a 0-tech is that defensive lineman that lines up over the center, like that big hulking. He looks like an ogre in the middle of the defensive line. Like you need an ogre in your middle of your defensive line. This defensive line currently on this team doesn't have a 0-tech. And I guess Walker, a little bit, the portal guy they brought in is maybe a 5-tech. Jalen Williams will be a 5-tech when he gets here. Ernest Willard could be a 5-tech potentially. But yeah, JTJ is a really good one because he absolutely would have been one of the starters. He would have given you depth. He would have given you a 5-tech. Yeah, that's a good one. Zach Bartz goes Moore, Pauling, Anelu. That's where I was at. Nick Flav says Moore, Pauling, Anelu. Nick, let me know if I'm butchering your last name. I've been saying like Flav for ever, I think. I think I'm saying that wrong. So let me know. It's definitely not on purpose. Slim says Grinch leaving is a major plus. I agree. I don't think that was a great hire. We talked about it. It felt always like even if he was a good safeties coach for you, it always felt like a stopgap move, which I didn't love. So I do think they're going to be able to probably upgrade there. Prior to Grinch, if you remember, was Colin Hitchler. Hitchler not only did yeoman's work as a recruiter, but you remember 2 years ago, it felt like Hunter Wohler was a better player. It felt like Zachman was a little better. It felt like the defense was a little better in general on the back seven. So yeah, Grinch to me wasn't a great hire. It didn't make a ton of sense. They'll have an opportunity to upgrade that as well. John Luke says Snowden, Pauling, and Alou. This is a good comment here. Nick Flav says most schools have it worse. I agree. This is. I don't want to be the guy acting like the Titanic's going down because it's not. Wisconsin has lost a lot of guys this cycle. A lot of schools have lost a lot of guys this cycle. Wisconsin is not abnormal in that. And the guys that really make you frustrated, one of them is Will Pauling, a guy who struggled with drops last year, and the other guy to me is Anelu Lafaele, a guy who didn't play last year. You look at other schools who are losing starting running backs, starting all-conference receivers, starting all-conference safeties. Schools have lost their entire quarterback room. Schools who have lost their all-conference linebacker. Like you can go down the list. Wisconsin is honestly just fine in the ecosystem of college football with what it is, and that's something to be grateful for. And that's something I've talked about too. Like the coaching staff is clearly also doing a lot of things right. They're retaining a Dylan Jones who could have left. They're retaining a Darion Dupree who could have left. A Vinny Anthony up to this point who absolutely could have left. You know, I would have said an Anelu Lafaele, but also a Thomas Heierberger. They're retaining a lot of guys who could have left, and credit to the staff for doing that as well. This is never all bad or all good. There's a middle ground somewhere that we got to find. And I think in general, this staff has done a good job this portal. I just think Lafaele is a loss. And this is my Lafaele morning day. This is my day in mourning for Anelu Lafaele. I'll be better tomorrow, I promise. Chris Hart said, maybe now the Grinch is gone, we can pull more back. Yeah, I don't think so. I haven't seen him commit. I don't think, unless I missed it. Jonas DeCluna committed to USF. I saw that. Amari Snowden committed to Toledo. I saw that. I'm trying to think of where the other guys may have committed. But those have happened. I don't think I've seen Braden Moore commit anywhere. But yeah, I doubt that one's coming back. Let's see. Come more. Slim Lewis says, I don't think any of these guys are a major loss. You want kids who are 100% brought in. If they aren't, they should move on. I hear that point, and I think for the most part, you're probably more on than off, Slim. I do think there's a two-way road here. And I think there's moments where if you are that young player and you feel like you're outplaying the older guys, or you feel like you see what they're doing in a game situation and you're still not getting reps, you get frustrated and you start to think that maybe there's greener grass somewhere. So I guess what I'm saying is it's also incumbent on the coaches to build those relationships, build that level of trust, and keep the young players engaged and on the hook to some degree. It's not easy, and it's certainly not on the coaches. And you certainly want younger players to step up and compete, right? There's a great comment in here. Kevin Haywood's stepdad said something along the lines of, Jordan Stewart points it out, love seeing what Haywood's stepdad said, compete. There's absolutely an element of that. I absolutely think some players are bailing too early. Like Wisconsin's an incredible school. The networking is incredible. The alumni is incredible. The education's incredible. The experience is incredible. Madison is amazing. It's phenomenal. Sometimes you're trading that in to go play ball at like Ball State. Sure. Like, I'm never going to tell somebody they're making the wrong decision with their priorities. Those are his priorities, not mine. But I don't always think the grass is greener. I do think it would behoove some players to stay and compete. It would behoove some players to stay and fight their way up the depth chart. Like we've seen that for a long time at Wisconsin, but it's also not the reality of college football where we're at right now. All right, we're going to take a quick second there and then we'll come back. Talk about 2 new pickups. What does Turner bring to the linebacker room and why I think Jayden Ballard doesn't fix the receiver room. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers, plus more of your comments. First, a quick second for our incredible friends of the show. And listen, all friends are incredible friends. If you have great friends, make sure once in a while to let them know how great they are. Because otherwise you may lose them. Don't do that. We all need more friends in life. I do. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sponsor, America's #1 sports book, the official of the Locked On Network, the official sports book of the NFL, the official sports book of the Herring's household, which is only me because my kids are too young to gamble. But FanDuel, an incredible spot for all your futures, parlays, teasers, spreads. It's all over there. Right now, get started with $5 bet if you're a first-time customer. You get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. Who else is giving you that offer? Not this guy. It's only FanDuel, right? So go over to FanDuel.com. Make your first-time bet now. Get $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. Never waste a hunch. Do it responsibly, please. But make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Today's episode also brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million members, billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all, to everybody, coast to coast, baby. That's what PrizePicks has done. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 players. It's simple. That's like making a Pop-Tart. It's not any harder than that, right? It's even easier than a Pop-Tart because I don't even know what my toaster settings are. In fact, I don't even have a toaster. We have this weird heater thing, and I can't figure it out. My wife, Erin, God love her, she comes and helps me make Pop-Tarts when I need them in my heater thing. It's like a baker. People who know this show a lot know I know nothing about cooking or culinary skills. Anyway, back to PrizePicks, the daily fantasy sports made easy, more or less on 2 players, simple, fast injury insurance. Right now, download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, let's jump back into this. Let's talk Badgers. Let's talk portal wins, right? Because the portal giveth and the portal taketh. Real assess Ryan's got an easy bake oven. No, it's like a toaster thing, but it doesn't go down. You put them in. And you close the glass door. What is that called? Dudes, I have no idea, man. That's where I make my Pop-Tarts. It is what it is. So let's talk new portal additions. Jayden Ballard, I want to start there. Former Ohio State receiver coming in. This is a receiver room that just lost. Obviously, you lost Will Pauling. You lost C.J. Williams. And it was also a receiver room that, quite frankly, needed another boundary receiver. And Chris Hart says a toaster oven. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Chris. So you've needed another boundary receiver. You've needed that for a while. C.J. Williams, I think through injury a little bit, not his fault, but also some inconsistency, wasn't able to fill that role. C.J. Ballard has some of the size you're looking for in that spot. And ideally what you're wanting in this offense, let's lay it out a little bit. You have a slot position, which is going to be Tretch. It's going to be Kyan Barry-Johnson. You have more of that off boundary receiver, which is going to be the Vinny Anthony, the guy that's not dealing with press coverage. And then you have that X receiver who's going to be on the line of scrimmage. He's got to be more physical. Could that be a Jayden Ballard? Possibly. He's got the size, good speed. The issue with Jayden Ballard and why I don't think he fixes the receiver room for you, he never did anything at Ohio State. And you can say that that receiver room is great, for sure. It is. But Ohio State also uses a ton of receivers, and they know how to use their receivers. It's a little concerning that you have a guy like Jayden Ballard who runs like a 4.4. He's a legit 4.4, 4.45 guy. Really good speed. 6'2", 200, so upper percentile on size and strength. And he's got a 35.5-inch vertical, which is, again, the upper 60th, 70th percentile among college receivers. So you have a guy who's in the upper percentiles in 40 time, height, weight, and vertical, and has caught like 11 passes in his career. It makes me feel like there's probably something else there, because Ohio State knows how to use guys that are 6'2" and run a 40 in and 4.4 with 36-inch vertical. But it's depth. He's a veteran guy. You need both those things in this room. And it's possible. The one thing I've always said in the portal, can you get somebody with carrying tools, right? In baseball, carrying tools like a 97-mile-an-hour fastball. In football, carrying tools of 4.4 40. This is a guy that has that. Maybe he gives you a vertical element in this offense opposite of Vinny Anthony. it's worth taking a flyer on. It's worth getting that lottery ticket to see if you can scratch it off and get something. But I got to be honest, I'm not super optimistic you're going to get a ton there because receivers who haven't done anything in really 4 years, I don't know. I don't know if there's much of a track record of that working out. The other guy they brought in is Antarron Turner, inside linebacker. That guy's coming out of Western Carolina. He's got a couple years of eligibility. Big hitter. There's some fun film on Turner if you go and watch him. Definitely film where he looks like coming downhill, going to be an inside guy. And that's a spot that I said, listen, you have Christian Allegro, Hackett Curtis, Tyler Jansey. I feel like you need another inside guy there. So they brought in Turner. Turner fits in that role. He's going to give you depth. He does have athleticism, so I do like that pickup. I don't think there was people talking about, does this tie into Anelu Lafaele leaving? I don't think these two are connected. I think they wanted more depth on the inside. This is a guy who has a little bit of eligibility left. He was pretty productive. He can hit, he can run, he can move. Will the nuances of moving up a level, will that impact him? We'll see. I like the pickup. I like both these pickups. I think you get depth in both spots. I think both are more likely depth pieces than stars. Both are probably more likely depth pieces than starters. But depth matters. The season is long. The Big Ten's rough. You're playing Bama and Tuscaloosa next year. You need another backup inside linebacker. You need another receiver. You need depth in these spots. So I like both these pickups. I think they're solid pickups, not stars, not guys that are going to elevate the room. Okay, let's see what else we got here. JB's in the house. Jesse Wilder says, I think in Grimes' system, he will complement it well, especially 1 year of eligibility remaining. This is a spot where Grimes will take shots downfield. So you have a vertical thread in Vinny Anthony. You have a vertical thread here coming in Ballard. And then you're going to work the underneath with Kojiel and Tretch. You can really start to see how this could come together. And especially with those running backs with Darion Dupree, Dylan Jones. Yeah, I like a lot of the pieces here. And you're totally right, Jesse. This could be a complementary piece that adds another vertical element to this offense. I think Quincy Burrows is another guy to mention here. So there's interesting pieces in the receiver room. I would love to add another guy there. Ben Alvin says, Turner is an inside linebacker, question mark. I think so. Listen, I need to dig a little more. He just committed, but that's what I've seen the highlights on. That's what I've read so far. I do think he's coming in to compete on the inside, which also makes sense to me because on the outside, I think you have enough bodies there. I think you like Cheeks, you like Heiberger, Peterson's back, you have Witt still, you have Clayton coming in who I think is going to play a little bit. I think Reiger and Willer, depending on the formation, are going to play a little bit out there. So I think this is a depth piece on the inside. Absolutely. Slim says, I'm severely overrating Pauling. He wasn't close to the number one slot receiver in the Big Ten in 2023. He's a fringe NFL prospect at best. Maybe I am. I think in 2023, he was close to the best slot receiver. He got 74 passes. I mean, that's off the top of my head, but 74 passes, I think, in 2023, correct? And even if he's a fringe NFL guy, how many fringe NFL receivers does Wisconsin have? Like, if you look at the roster, who on the roster right now would you say that's a fringe NFL guy? Vinny, and then, right? I don't know. I'm not. Maybe I am overrating them. You could be totally right on that, but I do think that he's a pretty good slot receiver. Jackson Taylor, what happened to Joseph Griffin? So Griffin is the Boston College guy. This is an interesting guy. Griffin's the Boston College guy, came in last year. Big frame, red zone guy, good yards per catch. And then there were some academic issues. He didn't practice. He wasn't able to be on the team. When I saw him in Platteville, I'll just say I'm not sure he's going to be a guy to count on. I don't know. We'll see. He's got the requisite size that you want at the boundary, so we will definitely see. But I'm not. I don't know about him. Rajiv says he's inside. Yep, that's what I've been seeing too. The Grogan, the great name. 4-4 with no route running. 9. Yeah, he's going to run a 9 route every play. Like that's kind of who I think Ballard is. Now, you would think, having spent 4 years at Ohio State or 3 years at Ohio State, he would pick up some route running technical ability. You would think he would have some technical acumen as an upperclassman at that position, but I think you're bringing him in to stretch the field, which is fine. You got him on one side, Vinny on the other, Kojiel in the middle, Tretch in the middle, and Billy Edwards running some RPO stuff. There's a lot there that makes sense and works with Grimes. So I like the pickup. I just think he's probably more of a piece to fit in than a piece that elevates the room, would be my guess. JP says, Ryan, who are our 3 cornerbacks and safeties next year? I don't know. So listen, I'll say this. You have Rico up to this point. You have and then Xavier Lucas. So you're good with your 2 corners there. I think Agard is the third guy. Agard was a pretty highly recruited 2024 kid. I like him a lot. He's a technically sound player, really good man-to-man, good slot guy. So I think there's your 3 corners, ideally. You still have Jay Harper, and then there's a couple guys coming into this class that could potentially play early. At the safety spot, obviously, you got Zachman coming back, Austin Brown. So there's your 2 safeties, and then maybe it's Trainer, who is the transfer guy coming in. Maybe that's your 3 safeties. They're still looking in the portal, and they need to. They need to add 2 or 3 more bodies in the portal. But I think that's your 3 and 3 right now. It's an okay 6. It lacks depth majorly. Majorly. So you got to bring in a couple more bodies. And then I think a Jameer Scott, maybe I don't know, Jamar Washington, one of those freshmen are probably going to play. So there's your secondary. It's not going to be great. It's going to be a little green, and it's going to have some hiccups. Just is what it is. Physically, I think they'll be pretty solid, especially at the cornerback spot. Safety spot, Zachman and Austin Brown probably could use an athletic upgrade there as well. Okay, let's wrap it there. Y'all are amazing. Jackson Taylor, I always say wrap it, and then I look at the comments and I'm like, oh man, I want to answer more of these questions because this is like a bar combo, especially this late at night. Jackson Taylor says Jones or Dupree. Long term, I think Jones is the better back. Listen, I think Dupree is skilled. I think he's quicker. I think Jones is the more natural, especially for this outside zone scheme that Grimes is going to run. I really like him. I really like Jones, but I think it'd be Jones and then Dupree, kind of a 1-2. And don't write off getting Natuka, who is going to give you a little bit of that Tyree Walker hammer. So I like all 3 of those guys. Okay, we'll wrap it there on Wisconsin. Y'all are incredible. Thank you so much as always. JB says, Ryan, boo. I said we need DBs, JB. Why are you booing me? I said we need multiple more bodies. Like what? I agree with you. On Wisconsin, appreciate you guys. Matthew Anderson agrees with me, Jones. When you're done here, go check out Locked On Big Ten and Locked On College for all the latest comments, or all the latest news stories, both in our conference and across college football. Ben Albin says Harper was raw but athletic, good size. Hope he's developing. Yeah, he was a hooper, good vertical, long arms. Jay Harper's got some athletic skills. Really nice kid as well. So I'm curious to see what his jump from getting into campus to being that redshirt freshman to being a sophomore could be. He's an interesting player to track, though, and he could figure into that depth chart as well. On Wisconsin, and we will talk to y'all later.